everybody. The most amazing. Hey, Joseph. Myanmar. guys questions about some music? You guys want to talk about it or just hear me play? I can help you.
Booking a family vacation in a Virgo means leaving all the craziness behind. Well,
Until you have a question, I will shred. Thanks, Maria. All right. This is not my old Chicago. This is my new Marine. It's a badass guitar, really top quality. So something to say about me and Danny did the first episode of what will be our podcast once we figure out some graphic stuff. We're gonna start it. We just recorded it this morning, and we were talking. As we were talking, there was something that we talked about that I thought would be interesting for a lot of you guys to maybe start thinking about. Any thoughts on the cage system and gypsy jazz? We'll get there. But first thing I want to talk about is basically something that when you think about the words free jazz is for me is really a triggering kind of concept because what you really ask yourself is what, there's an implicit assumption inside that term free jazz that jazz isn't free, right? But jazz is the freest music there ever was in one way. So the question is, how do you locate the place where jazz is free? And how do you practice that? Meaning, what is the freedom of jazz? Obviously you're not Louis Armstrong is not free to play like Jimi Hendrix, right? He still is, and everybody has constraints. The thing that free jazz people are free from is form and structure. But the things that jazz players are free from are the constraints of written melody and written rhythm, written note and written rhythm. It's really a freedom of melody. And if you want to understand a little bit deeper what that freedom means, it's the kind of freedom that you get by understanding that you know what a melody is, even if you don't play it verbatim. Meaning, if I have a melody that everybody knows, let's not even take a jazz melody, like "You Are My Sunshine," right? Do 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 do. Now, the way a jazz player approaches that is the question. What is the freedom that you have? And this freedom of moving things in time. When you write something, you have to decide what's a quarter note, what's an eighth note, how long the notes are, which notes you're using, what part is kind of essential in the written form, and what part is an ornament or an embellishment. And that's kind of the bitch also with learning jazz. When you hear, if you listen to the song I just played, to All of Me, you listen to 20 versions of All of Me. there are there are literally 20 ideas on what All of Me is. If you try to understand, ask yourself something like, what's the rhythm of the melody? So, okay, so let's see. Is it one, two, three, four, ba ba ba, ba 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 ba, or ba ba ba, ba 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 ba, or one, two, three, four, ba ba boom, ba 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 ba, or ba da ba da ba da ba da ba bo ba da ba di bo ba ba da da do. Right? It could be all these things. So when you're playing jazz, I think first and foremost, and this is really where this music started, it's the idea that if you know what the song is deeply, you can always make variations using improvised rhythm and improvised even notes, by using tools, as long as you can keep the some sort of idea of an identity of what the melody means in the center. Now, I don't mean this in a very abstract way that you need to like close your eyes and go in the zone and do it. A great thing to do is just, play the melody as written and then start changing little things and see if it still maintained something from itself. There are many, 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 many more ways to fuck this up than to succeed. Right? So it's not just random. You're not randomizing, you're improvising. That's something that you really need to have a distinction. The difference between randomizing and improvising is that an improvisation has some sort of understanding of the aesthetic that it's rooted into. And understanding the aesthetic is different in every style. In jazz, understanding the aesthetic could mean knowing what rhythms you're playing, knowing what modes or what arpeggios you're using, knowing the song structure. In blues, it can mean something a little bit different, but the kinds of improvisations that you do in blues and jazz are very different. In a blues context, the melodies are not that defined. So you're really playing, it's more like you're playing the blues, like the whole style is one song, right? But in jazz, each melody is the point of the song. But the idea is that you want to take, you know, it, you want to give it new meaning every time you play it in relation to time. There's something improvised about how you lay it out in time. So if I take a song like I just played on all of me,
The DSCC is the only committee solely dedicated to flipping the Senate. And right now, it's the only.
okay, uh, so let's see what that looks like in practice. playing. Lucy. As I'm just playing. No, in a lot of ways. You know, when you listen to Billie Holiday improvising, you still know it's all of me. She's singing the words, but she's really changing a lot of the notes, right? Like. Playing some of the rhythms on the all of me, why not take all of me? So again, as long as you maintain enough of whatever the melody is, whatever its identity is, you get the point across. And that's the idea. Now, obviously, some choices are better than others, but the cool thing about this style is that you get to make those judgments in hindsight, right? Because you're just going with, through the control you have over the material, with your best intuition, and you try to do it. You go for it, right? The style is just full of going for it and then judging back. And I think that's where the spirit lies. You know, certainly there's a possibility that like whatever you're playing is not going to be your best idea. What's a good starter gypsy jazz guitar if you don't want to break the bank? So I tell the same thing to everybody, but it's true. Tommy Davey over at djangoguitars.com. Don't be afraid of him. Just email him, tell him how much money you want to spend. He's not going to cheat you. He's a very honest dude, and he's excellent for any price range. I literally, this one and my other guitar, he just sent me pictures. He made me a video of him playing it, told me how much they were. I sent him the money. He sent me the guitar. I never played them in the store. I never had a bad purchase. He's just the man. Again, if you don't have a lot of money, it's not going to be the best guitar. Play Dust in the Wind. I will not do that, Dave. All we are is dust. What's that, Joan Baez? But I will play croquet. Hello, Costa. Sounds weird on YouTube? Oops. Good thing you're telling me. If I can do something with that. So Eric, you're always switching your thinking whenever you're switching chords, but the trick is that after you do it for long enough, it requires no thinking. But you never play like generally in the key in this style, literally ever. It just doesn't, that situation doesn't happen. Yeah. How do you hear the vocalist in these? What do you mean? How do you hear the vocalist in these? Explain the question. But yeah, so what you wanna? So yeah, a song like this goes. This song is really in a key, but I'm really not thinking about it that way. So I'm really thinking D major, E minor, A7, D. So meandering between parts like water or coming in like a hummingbird. I'm not sure if I understand the question. I think, that place where melodies come from is a mysterious place in general. I think a lot of times guitar players are encouraged to sing, to vocalize their lines in an attempt to tap into something intuitive, right? So if I'm playing over a D major, the question is like, okay, I have my finger stuff around this area of the guitar, whatever, that, like, stuff that my fingers are associating with the key, with the sound, with the mode. And then the idea after a while that people get in college or something, or playing the guitar, like, no, really play, like tap into your brain, not this geometry of the neck. Play, right? Whatever. Like find, right? Find the melodies that are in your brain on the guitar. But the problem with that is that we're not trained singers. Most of us have kind of a small range. We sing out of tune. And this attempt is just to get to that place behind the singing. So if you imagine you're singing in your throat or in your head, what you're really trying to tap into in your intuition is your brain, and it's just kind of physically closer to your mouth and to your fingers. Which makes people it's a kind of a desperate attempt to get closer to some sort of source of music, and then there's something to be said about that. Maybe your singing kind of takes you outside of the geometry of the guitar, and if you spend way too much time just learning the neck, you might just build mechanical habits that dictate your choice making. But the idea is to make your choice making actual choice making, right? But what does that mean? It's like, are you a better choice maker in a brand new city? Let's see. When you play with a vocalist, what feeling do you want the voice to create? When I play with a vocal, I just, Vocalists are not like other instrumentalists. They're also more directly in charge with the theater of music. They communicate, since this is deeply abstract music, but vocalists trade in sounds that also have linguistic meaning. They're kind of the bridge into narrative. So there's theater there too. Um, so I would say, whereas when you're an instrumentalist, when you're using your instrument to create, you are activating people's ability for abstract aesthetic, meaning symmetry of lines, rise and fall of the lines, rhythm, all these elements that also obviously also exist in singing. But I think when it's not married to the lyric, then you really have a separate kind of venture. Vocalists need to understand the emotions that they're trying to bring out of a person. They really need to kind of psychologically be in this place where they get in character, like a Frank Sinatra really really understands what the songs are about, and becomes kind of a vessel. It looks like he's acting when he's singing. It's like a song. He's always like has like this routine, and he's singing like these sad, alone in the bar kind of songs, where you really see it on him. It's like watching a movie almost. It's 2:45. It's like, there's no one in the place. He makes like a sad face, like it's like he's the character. So emoting on this kind of level, but somehow making it not ridiculous. That's the problem. It's like a lot of people emote so hard that you're not falling for it. It's like you have to be subtle enough to where it doesn't become disgusting, like musical theater. Where you're just like cringy. So it's I would say that you need to find some sort some sort of place in yourself where you're actually tapping into some sort of personal experience you have with the lyric, with the meaning of the song. um, Not getting in the way of it. Yeah, obviously, don't do too little, don't do too much is always solid advice. But I don't know. I mean, it's weird when you see somebody who can really do it. Hey Barry, see somebody who can really do it. It's an experience. It grabs you. Hmm. Thanks, Nacho. we always think of choro, a very important Brazilian style of music, and a delicious Mexican dessert. All right. M. Hey, dude. Hi from Oklahoma. Hey, Lord. It's nice to have an Okie on here. That's Chris Christopherson's song about the Okie. How about some blues? Blues is always nice. Thanks, Pedro. All right, let's talk about skills. Somebody asked. You play that guitar good. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. So skills. I would say for all of you guys, I've heard that a good blues uses the Mixolydian scale. That's correct. All dominant 7 chord. No, sorry, wrong statement. Dominant 7 chords in a lot of contexts use the Mixolydian scale. So I would say that a big mistake that a lot of you guys are making is trying to learn jazz by cramming it in to whatever context you're used to playing rather than learning jazz songs. I think I'm getting pretty bad sound too on YouTube. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what's up with that, DR. So I would say, like, if you're listening to Schofield, or even like if you're a metal player or a blues player, and you just kind of are sick of your vocabulary and you want lines that sound jazzier, and you just learn a few licks, it's kind of it's the wrong way to go about it. What I would suggest you do is learn some chord patterns, chord progressions, and not just cadences. Don't work on like a I don't know, like a 1-6-2-5 or a 2-5-1. You know, there's going to be time to do that, to examine the patterns that exist in a lot of jazz songs. But first of all, what you want to be doing is just learn a bunch of songs, not learn the bunch of songs to be able to shred jazz through them. Learn to love the songs. Now, you don't have to choose. You're talking about like 50 years of music. You know, you just choose the ones that you like. They're all very similar. Choose the few that speak to you and just learn it the way I learned Nirvana songs or Metallica songs when I was in high school. You know, like minus the tab, I don't know. But just pick them out off the record, the way people learn Pink Floyd songs. Like they're songs, you know, some sort of basic version of them, just to get your foot in the door, right? And then you will notice that these songs have chord progressions. And on each chord, you need to play a scale. But it's not so much about, it's like, oh, okay, I need to play all of me. The first scale is C major. But the problem is you can spend infinity in C major and learn every pattern and every interval, and then, you know, licks and all. It's infinite, right? So you can spend an indefinite amount studying whatever on the fretboard. I think the thing that you need to do is get yourself in the game. Get yourself in the place maybe when you can play the chords all in a row that go in a jazz song. And then the next logical question would just be like, okay, so what do I play over each one of these chords? Or when I stop playing rhythm, how do I just maybe play some arpeggios of these things that just make it sound like the harmony. That'll be the initial challenge of this kind of music. Take, I don't know, depends whatever song speaks to you, but literally any jazz song, and just see what's going on. Autumn Leaves, a lot of people start there, All the Things You Are, like. So these chords are just meant to support those melodies. Now you take these chords that fit under that thing, maybe learn how to hum the melody. Boom, 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 boom. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Ba, da, da, da. Ba, da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Ba, 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 ba. Do, do, da, do, da. Da, do, do. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Now you have this. Okay, so now let's say you know the chords. Now you find sounds that work inside each one of these chords. So let's say you're a guitar player. A good place to start, and this is how a lot of people play, is just playing out of the shapes. What's it mean to play out of the shapes? It means to integrate that modal information, that scale information on the fretboard to whatever grip you're using. So if you're using this grip, find the notes in the mode that sound good with it. Go to the next chord, do the same thing. Next chord. Next chord. Next chord. See, I'm really playing out of the shapes. That's something that's really good to know. If you have a C minor 7, you want to be able to play C Dorian attached to it. If you play it this way here. Vocalization is an ad. So, do I rate Bernie? Bernie's okay. I don't know. These people, I like them on some, obviously played some iconic stuff. Thanks so much, Joseph. So, you want to, with singing the lines, again, it's not so important. When my dad was alive, he used to play his guitar, bass guitar. It was good too. That's cool, Lori. How do I pick parts, shapes of chords? You want to just, maybe start, again, what's a chord? If you can hear the bass line, and then you can put some voices in the middle that are of the mode, then you pretty much have a chord. right? So I would say this kind of music starts with counterpoint. If you can just play the bass notes and the melody, you have the song. So I'm just really playing the bottom and the top, and you hear the relationship, but that gives you the thing. The filling up the middle between that soprano and the bass is just finding notes of C Dorian. You can do really literally whatever you want, right? So any shape would really work to an extent. Obviously there are the stock kind of shapes that you want to go for. So with vocalizing, it's a great idea to be critical of the choices you're making on repeat without being aware. That's the key. I think that's what Bernie Castle was talking about too. So if you keep playing the root on everything, because that's how you maybe learn the scale patterns. Or even like more sophisticated lines that don't go straight to contour, but keep starting from the root on every chord, that has a predictable sound. You don't want that bass line to be the beginning of every single one of your lines. It creates a big leap. I see your point, but what am I supposed to play on a similar progression like E7, A7, B7? Well, this is the thing. You don't get to know that until you know those three chords you mentioned can be in a song in C major, right? If I'm in C major, then the E7 is 5 of 6, the A7 is 5 of 2, and the B7 is 5 of 3. But if I'm in the key of G, the E7 is 5 of 2, the A7 is 5 of 5, and the B7 is 5 of 6. So your question is too narrow to contain the answer, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? You're inside the way you're asking it, you're assuming something about music that isn't true, which is that those chords have what to play over what has kind of objective answers that are always the same, but it depends on something else, which is what the tonality of the piece is. I mean, the harmony limits the scales or the other way around. The scale choices have to do with how those chords you're using are functioning in the song. And the way that what the entire song gives you is really a bass line. So if you take a look at those chords in the context of a song like All of Me, right? If let's say I have a C major and then I have E7, A7, and then B7, E minor. I'm just making that up. That's not All of Me, but it's related. But you could hear that big C in the beginning. Then it's going to create a trajectory for the harmony, right? A bass line, an actual melody in the bass that's going to want to go to certain places, and then the mode choices are going to reflect that desire of it, if that makes sense. So there's the thing that the name of the subject that your question misses is harmonic function, right? Because when you have chords, it's not, if you have an E7, it doesn't mean you know what to play over that E7. There's E7 in a context. Now, I'm not saying it's infinite and it's unanswerable. I'm saying you need to put the way to get around it, which was my original point, is learn songs. Because once you have an entire chord progression, then things become definite and you know what to do over what. And you can just make the right choices, right? So to answer your question about the E7, A7, B7 in the context of the key of C, then on the E7, I most likely would play E mixolydian flat 2, flat 6. On the A7, I would play A mixolydian flat 2, flat 6. And on the B7, I play B mixolydian flat 2, flat 6. Because they would move into, respectively, 5 of 6, 5 of 2, 5 of 3, which are all minor places, and secondary dominance is resolved to minor places. That's the mode that kind of sounds inside for them. But if they were all in the key of G, then on the E7, I would play mixolydian flat 2, flat 6. On the A7, I would play mixolydian, so it's going to a major place. And on the B7, I play mixolydian flat 2, flat 6. Does that make sense? Kind of. I hope so. I know that explanation was probably a little bit above your head, maybe, if you haven't studied any harmony, but maybe it should be an aha moment. There's something more to learn here about the behavior of chords and how they relate to whatever key I'm in, right? That you can analyze. That's what Roman numeral analysis is. It has to fit within the guidelines of what the rhythm section is playing. This isn't so much a rhythm section thing. It's about a song thing. It's like you have to understand the harmony of the song, the tonality of the song, where the entire chord progression is pulling. Is home C or is home G in this context, or something else, right? Or is this E7, A7, B, could also be, what could it be? Maybe some sort of blues thing, right? In A or in E. Makes sense, or at least something to take away. Mixolydian flat 2, flat 6, here we come. So mixolydian flat 2, flat 6 is the fifth mode of harmonic minor. So if you're trying to play E mixolydian flat 2, flat 6, that's the same notes as A harmonic minor. But the difference is that you're playing that over an E7 sound. That C sharp did not belong there. So, makes sense, right? I say a lot of makes sense, because I hope it makes sense. That's the truth. That's why I say it. All right, I'll play some blues.
Doing the Baker burn boogie. Just plain burning up.
Gypsy scale, when I check it out. A lot of people call it Gypsy scale, Jewish scale, Hungarian scale. I heard Egyptian. Everybody wants to claim it. You probably answered the question a million times, but the Gypsy guitars use nylon string? No, these are silver wound strings called Argentine. I'm back and subscribed. Cool. Yeah, subscribe, people. Thanks, Michael. I've been grateful for you for the right hand technique tips in the past. Oh, cool. Yeah, I do what I can to help. This music shit is just very difficult with all the right information, and there's so much wrong information out there too. So, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people. I see a lot of my colleagues just start their academies and charging a lot of money from people, and maybe they're right to do so. I mean, maybe financially it makes sense, but to me, what made more sense is to try, in spite of all the temptations of what the internet presents, to make the monetization model still music. So the idea is to make fans and of the music, and just be very giving with those fans. That's the whole thing. It's like what we sell with Marvin was till recently tickets to come see us play live and our CDs. What's your YouTube? Oh, it's just /Marvin Music. So I'm broadcasting on both now. Um, so Facebook people, you can go on YouTube. But yeah, so the whole idea was just you know, people that like our music to just keep doing stuff that's interesting and hopefully helpful. I mean, if more people play well, everybody wins. So I really hope some of you are getting something. Thanks, Emilio. um, How is it to be an awesome guitarist and a sex symbol in the U.S.? Sex symbol, yeah. I symbolize love handles. The info you share is very useful. Thank you. I appreciate it, bro.
After your dad's speech?
This is binge night, which means that all drugs and alcohol are legal. If you decide to binge, there will be consequences. Done.
Last one. All right. The density you create in your solos are amazing. I would love to play with you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Alex. All right, guys. See you next time.